Welcome. Welcome to Occam's Razor. This is Blazing Cat for Fridays, where we do a cold read through of the best news aggregate for people who think like me. I'm amazed how many folks have viewed these Friday videos. Thank you all for watching. I'd also like to mention that I have a gardening channel up. So if you'd like to follow me there as the garden grows throughout the summer and we cook and can, you're all welcome. Available on both CommyTube and Rumble. Please follow me on Rumble so I can reach 100 followers to qualify for the Rumble Creator Program because you can't depend on CommyTube. And please leave some comments on the videos. I'd like to read what you folks have to say. So let's go. Let's go straight and do a quick refresh. See, we do have something new. First, and now let's check and make sure that oh, good, we do have the mic on, so you have been hearing me. All right. What's the first top story we got here? Oh, great. I bet it's going to demand reparations. Rare black iceberg spotted off Labrador coast could be 100,000 years old, Professor says. A rare black iceberg spotted off the coast of Labrador is making a splash on social media after a fish harvester living in Carbonear, Newfoundland, took a photo of it while fishing for shrimp last month. Originally from Faroe Island, Hilaire Antonisian, I didn't pronounce that right, was working for a crew on board the Saputi factory freezer trawler off the coast of Labrador in mid-May. It is a rather interesting, dark-looking iceberg. Having flown over the Arctic on a training mission up to Pangerton, I did catch a few icebergs. Actually, you can see some of that footage on my Rumble channel on some of the earlier videos. There's some video that was captured and put together. Oh, it's from 20 years ago. All right. Diddy judge explodes at rapper for absolutely unacceptable attempts to sway the jury. Hmm. The sex trafficking and racketeering trial of Sean Diddy Combs continued on Thursday with more dramatic testimony, including that of a third alleged victim. Judge Arun Subramanian admonished the disgraced music mogul on Thursday after he noticed him nodding vigorously at the jury, warning that he would kick him out of his own trial if he continued the behavior. Submarinian's stern warning came just before a third alleged sex trafficking victim, known only as Jane, took the stand. Ooh, I was just thinking about that today. How many people have left the church and have no morals and ethics? And we don't have morals and ethics. This is the kind of stuff you get in society. People who only think of themselves. People who, I was thinking of the Catholic Church, where we're indoctrinated with self-loathing and anxiety if we do anything that crosses the line along our ethics and values. Seemed to work for us, seemed to give us a stable society until we let in a bunch of people who don't have the same attitudes. All right, hate crime. Leaked doc show Ontario school staff are being trained to believe the term family is rooted in white supremacy. Oh God. This is what communists do, right? They will take something that's normal, they will change it into something that is not normal because they want to change society into their own dystopian utopia. Family is white supremacy. The Waterloo Regional District School Board has apparently approved training material for staff that alleges the term family is racist. The teachers' colleges are just out of control. The stuff that they are teaching to kids, the climate scam, the gender dysphoria as being acceptable, and now let's just destroy everything else in society that means something to us because that's the communist way. You can't be happy with what is. You have to capture it, destroy it. It's pure Hegelian deconstructionism, cultural Marxism. According to internal documents published June 4 by independent media outlet Juno News, the Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation is telling staff at Waterloo Oxford District Secondary School the term family is rooted in white supremacy. And here BCS writes, can you imagine the outrage in our media if this slur were leveled against Muslims or Jews? Very true. I hope parents launch a hate crime complaint. They will just normalize bad behavior and then denormalize your normal behavior as bad behavior. Sailors abandon ship as fire engulfs electric vehicles on board. Yeah, like we didn't see this coming. Morning Midas abandoned. Rescue tugs 4 days away. A cargo carrier transporting hundreds of electric vehicles from China to Mexico is on fire off the United States, leading to fears over the dangers of lithium batteries on board. All 22 members of the vessel, the Morning Midas, have abandoned ship after they were unable to bring the fire under control. They were picked up by another cargo ship, the Costco Hellas, from a lifeboat floating in the mid-North Pacific near the international date line between Japan and Alaska. Yes, the international date line. It's a very funny one. I remember having to, when I was managing my tech crewmen, we were flying all over the planet on a C-130J. It was always confusing when they'd be over the other side of the Pacific when it came to paperwork because of the Zulu time. We do everything according to the international date line over in London. Everything is Zulu time there. But if they're over there, are they doing the paperwork yesterday or today? It was always confusing. Randall Denley, Ontario is finally forcing out DEI from schools and universities. Oh, yes, I just saw something on Twitter today where people are complaining that Ontario is turning Trumpian because they're doing kind of the same thing south of the border, right? And this is why they are going after the universities there as well, because they're indoctrinating kids in cultural Marxism. Ontario Premier Doug Ford has done something truly conservative. Yeah, that's shocking. His government proposed rule changes for colleges, universities, and school boards are aimed squarely at shifting power away from the diversity, equity, and inclusion crowd and weakening their control over education. It's welcome news for anyone who thinks that public education should be about learning and diversity of ideas, not a playground for political activists. Yes, we all hope he's right. Hannaford, how does Carney get out of the box he made? Oh, Boxing Carney. Ever remember the old movie Boxing Helena? Wasn't really that good of a movie either. Contemplating Prime Minister Mark Carney at his meeting with provincial premiers on Monday, I find myself recalling Harry Houdini, the great escape artist who would have himself handcuffed and locked in a box, only to emerge behind you through the front door 5 minutes later. My goodness, how did he do that? Yes, he's quite the magician. He will always promise you something and deliver something else, and yet people praise him for it. It's rather interesting. Not. SCOTUS, no straight white people don't have to provide more proof of discrimination than everyone else. Yeah. The Supreme Court unanimously decided that majority groups don't have to provide more evidence than other groups to show discrimination. SCOTUS sent the case Ames versus Ohio Department of Youth Services back to the lower courts Thursday, ruling that the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals had improperly required Marlene Ames, the plaintiff, to satisfy a heightened evidentiary standard to prove that her gay co-workers acted with a discriminatory motive. Well, see how that goes. We know here in Canada, heteronormativity has been deemed a bad thing right in policy. I've shown this right in Defense Department policy as well. You're not getting promoted past lieutenant colonel unless you can prove that you disfavor heteronormativity. Lesbian Venezuelan poetry student may be Trump's next deportation victim. Oh, yes, because people who are deported are victims. Will the injustice never end? As the Trump administration continues to enact the will of the voters, by tightening the borders that the Biden administration opened wide to import millions of illegals to vote Democrat, panicked left-wing media propagandists desperately try to prop up their narrative that the president is a cruel, xenophobic dictator. Following the will of the people, the pendulum is swinging. And when the pendulum swings, people get knocked off the parapet. All right, Haiti's de facto president, facing situation of war, seeks more help from Canada. Ah, God, Haiti. It's horrible, horrible situation these people live in there. Just abject poverty, no running water, sewage and garbage in the streets, criminal organizations just running the area. Evidence of cannibalism in the past. If anybody needs to be occupied, it's Haiti, but who would want it? Not even the Dominican Republic. Fritz Alphonse Jean, Well, that's who the new president is. The de facto president of Haiti is calling from a well-appointed office in Villa d'Accueil, temporary home of the Haitian government. It is an island of calm in what Mr. Jean calls the country's situation of war. The machinery of state has been forced to largely relocate from the National Palace, a grand neoclassical building in Port-au-Prince that typically houses the country's leaders because of regular gunfights between heavily armed gangs and habitually underpowered police. Yeah, just imagine what they're being paid. Next to nothing. The British establishment has ferociously attacked Britain. Until very recently, Britain was inhabited almost exclusively by white Europeans. First the Celts, then the Germanic tribes who became the English, then the closely related Vikings. Our DNA was more or less settled by 900 AD. A smattering of others came over the next 1,000 years. Norman descendants of Vikings in 1066, and then a tiny number of Jews, Huguenots, African or Asian individuals associated with Britain's empire, and even escaped slaves from the USA. But these were few and rapidly assimilated, becoming British and part of our island story. So, what is the big story here? British establishment has ferociously attacked Britain. They have done the same thing that Biden did to the US, but they've been doing it for longer. Uncontrolled mass immigration. Even when Brexit occurred, the government in play refused to allow Britain to fully exit. They have done everything in their power to dilute the population, and it's even worse over in Ireland. And then they do a two-tier justice system where people who say hurty words online are given more than close to what, 2 years in jail, while rapists and child abusers get out on bail. People are upset. They're setting themselves up, probably on purpose, for a civil war. Mannheim stabbings are being memory holed. Oh, yes, the stabby stabbersons are at it again. The German establishment is desperate to obscure the Islamist motive behind this terrible tragedy. Oh, it's mental illness, don't you know? A year after the deadly Islamist terrorist attack in the German city of Mannheim, the debate over what lessons to draw from it remains bitterly contested. Even the question of how to commemorate the attack, in which police officer was killed and several members of the public seriously injured, has been anything but straightforward. Hmm, the elephant in the room. RCMP clarifies nature of its investigation to Israel-Hamas conflict. Yes, that's right. Just recently on Twitter, what they were saying, or sorry, X, they were saying that they were going to be investigating crimes against humanity, or something like that, for this conflict on another part of the planet. Why is the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, investigating something outside of Canada? Isn't that what CSIS is for? Let's see, what are they saying? The federal police force clarified the nature of its investigation into the Israel-Hamas conflict after probes sparked media coverage and raised concerns from pro-Israel advocates in response. In an exclusive report on June 2, the Toronto Star said RCMP was probing potential war crimes in the conflict, but wouldn't share more details about the investigation. Referring to the claim, some Israeli media later said that the RCMP is investigating potential war crimes committed by Canadians serving in the Israeli military. Reacting to the media coverage, the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs said it was deeply concerning to read sensationalist reports about the RCMP's investigation, asked Ottawa to provide clarification. Hmm. Well, we'll see. We'll see if they're telling the truth and or if they're just up to their old games as directed to by their political masters. Elon Musk drops Epstein bomb in worst slur yet against Trump as their public breakup turns ugly. Yes, well, if there was ever a reason to make some popcorn today, it would be as a result of this traffic that occurred yesterday. Elon Musk claimed Thursday afternoon that President Donald Trump is in the Epstein files, a dramatic escalation amid their spectacular falling out. Musk also suggested that Trump should be impeached and replaced with 40-year-old Vice President J.D. Vance. Moments before the Epstein charge, Trump had taken to Truth Social and said he had asked Musk to leave his administration and said the billionaire went crazy. What's this say here? Justin, President Trump responds to Elon Musk says he doesn't know if they will be able to get along anymore. Trump also spoke about Elon's help in Pennsylvania and the EV tax credit. He worked hard and he did a good job. And I'll be honest, I think he missed the show. Okay. Well, let's see what he says.
Elon and I had a great relationship.
Oh, hang on a
I don't
second.
know
I'm
if we're
not
well
getting
anymore. I
desktop
was
audio here.
surprised because you were here. Everybody in this room practically was here as we had.
Terribly sorry there, folks. Just before the show, I had to reset my background imaging, and of course, there's no audio associated with that, so I'll have to do that for the next episode. But what we can say for sure that we know is that Trump is a teetotaler. He doesn't drink. He doesn't do drugs. He has stated several times, and there's no reason for us not to believe it, that he has spent his entire life drug and alcohol free. Um, so, meanwhile, we know that Elon may have not been alcohol and drug free for his whole life. So, I'm sure more will happen as the day unfolds, as the weekend and the weeks and the year unfolds. There is so much at play here. It's just not this relationship. It's all our space program. Well, the barbarian invasion of our time. Hmm. Aren't we living it all, eh? One in four Canadians is foreign born. The establishment doesn't favor Muslims out of love and respect for Muslims. They do it because they fear them. Over coffee in Budapest recently, a visiting European lawyer told me her son had withdrawn as a student at Science Po, the familiar name for the elite Paris Institute of Political Studies, because he no longer felt safe there. The reason? An atmosphere of intimidation around pro-Palestinian activism and anti-Semitism. The young man is a Christian, but he concluded that the Sciences Po administration had lost control of the situation and had no intention of restoring order. It was just the 2024 campus protests, which were eventually broken up by the police. It was more a matter of an overall culture of intolerance and bullying within one of France's top institutions of higher learning. Get used to it. As Europe moves steadily towards Islamization, this kind of thing will become the norm. That's right. You cannot have two competing power structures in a society and hope that they will get along, especially when one of the power structures says it must be totalitarian and control everything. Yeah, so European communism meets Islamist totalitarianism. The clash is inevitable. Muslim from Somalia with Canadian passport and ties to Osama bin Laden arrested in Montreal, accused of wanting to kill large number of people. Hmm. A man convicted of terrorism offenses in the United States who had ties to Al Qaeda founder Osama bin Laden allegedly threatened to kill a large number of people in Montreal, according to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Court records show Mohammed Abdullah Warsame, 51, is facing one count of uttering threats to cause death or bodily harm under the criminal code following an incident on May 26th. His arrest in Montreal was first reported by La Presse. More Islamophobia. And we've reached the bottom of the page. And how are we doing on time? Oh my, we're a little faster today. Probably because we couldn't play that video. You know what? Let's move into the second page and see what we have. Win Morgan says, Mark Carney's Energy Mirage. Pete Townshend's lyrics, Meet the New Boss, Same as the Old Boss, perfectly captures Canada's new Prime Minister. Mark Carney was sold to Canadians as a fresh start after the Trudeau years. Now, claims, he'll make Canada a clean and conventional energy superpower. Well, anyone that read his book knew that it was going to happen. His entire portfolio has been invested in net zero. He's been indicted by the Department of Justice in the United States as a co-conspirator in the Gifance um, Green Fund Green Fund scam. Regardless, yeah, of course, we're surprised he's not doing this. We still don't know what he's invested in. You know, same as the old boss, he's worse than the old boss. Absolutely worse. Original Sin, it's worse than the authors know. The new Joe Biden book, Original Sin, detailing the Democrats' conspiracy to deceive Americans about the carcass of a man sitting in the Oval Office, brought back warm memories. I really enjoyed that debate, so I'm ranking Alex Thompson and Jake Tapper's book as a must read for any Republican. But the key takeaways from the book weren't sufficiently highlighted by the authors. Well, he kept saying applesauce for brains. He did his he ran his presidency election from the basement, and they voted him in. Apparently, that first time. Michael Taub, early signs liberal government may be short-lived. We can only hope. After the Uniparty, you know, stepped on their sausage and you know let the first vote go through. 45th Canadian Parliament officially began on May 26th. There are already some early signs that it may not last very long. Prime Minister Mark Carney and the Liberals suffered an embarrassing defeat June 2nd vote in the House of Commons. Conservative interim Andrew Scheer's sub-amendment to the throne speech, which called for a firm commitment to present a spring economic statement or budget that incorporates measures aimed at unleashing Canada's economic potential, passed a vote of 166 to 164. That was just an amendment. And of course, they just said, "Ah, you peasants, we don't need to tell you what we're spending your money on. Just listen and obey." What the foxtrot? Call the amber lamps because she can't breathe. Oh, well, it's too bad we can't watch that today. Citizenship by descent legislation. The Liberal Party dreams up new way to cheapen Canadian citizenship and swamp the country with incompatible cultures. The federal government has tabled a new bill. Well, they're basically retabling an old bill that would allow Canadians born abroad to pass citizenship by descent to children born overseas via a test to prove family ties to the country. Bill C3 is meant to satisfy a court order that has ruled the current two-generation cutoff provisions of the citizenship is unconstitutional because it limits the automatic passage of citizenship to the first generation of Canadians who were born outside of Canada. Citizenship is more than a legal status. It's a profound connection to the values, history, and spirit of Canada, Immigration Minister Lena Metlag-Diab said in a statement on Thursday. Values, history, and spirit. So the values, histories, and spirit of Canada will be reflected in an immigrant who comes to Canada, spends a year here, leaves Canada for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years, comes back for another year, leaves Canada for another 3, 4, 5, it doesn't matter, and then comes back for another year, and then leaves again. They've managed to accumulate 3 years here over an indeterminate amount of time because there's no limits that says, a month here, a month there. As long as you accumulate 3 years, and after that, any kids you have can be given Canadian citizenship. Even though you've only spent 3 years here, you haven't actually worked here, you haven't built a home here, you haven't invested here, you haven't decided to retire here, you haven't spent and committed tax money to this nation for 20 years or more to invest in any kind of the social systems that we provide. No, 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 just everything for free. So now these kids, they get their Canadian citizenship, and they can just show up at any time after they've lived outside the country for their entire lives to have their Canadian citizenship. And now they're getting old. He goes, you know what? Maybe I should move to Canada now and take part in all the old age stuff I'm entitled to, all the social services after not living there. This is a disaster in so many ways. Now, I understand, some people should be allowed to give citizenship to their kids, but there needs to be some kind of graduation here and some kind of representation and proof that you've spent and intend to spend your life in Canada, not just feed off the taxpayer teat, which is all this is going to do. But it doesn't matter anyway, because the way Canada's going, there won't be a Canada left in 2 or 3 years. And we'll just pass this one here. Can liberal Jews admit that Trump is right about woke anti-Semitism? It was no coincidence that on the same day that much of the mainstream media swallowed Hamas lies about Israelis slaughtering people in Gaza Strip, that another violent anti-Semitic attack occurred in the United States. What happened in Boulder, Colorado on June 1 was when an Egyptian immigrant attempted to incinerate a group of American Jews, many of them elderly, who were walking in a public space on behalf of the remaining Israeli hostages being held by Hamas was a horrifying crime. Yeah, people are crazy. People are crazy, and the mainstream media is not helping. You know, how come not a single mainstream media has linked to the Hamas covenant to show to people that this is what they believe? They believe in killing Jews and they want to destroy Israel, right? They don't want to live in peace, and they will continue to do that. But yet they always come out and go, "Oh, the Israelis retaliated; they're bad." You know. Meanwhile, it's right in their covenant, and know them by what they do. What have they been doing? Constantly attack, attack, enough. Anyway, Australian machete ban ignores the real causes of crime. Oh, ban one thing, they will use another weapon. It shows that gun control never stops assault weapons. That's right. Now we must stop assault machetes. Last week, the Australian state government of Victoria banned the sale of large knives after a violent gang fight in Melbourne shopping mall. The brawl consisted of 7 men wildly swinging machetes at each other. Since the event, all 7 men have been arrested and charged. Those arrested were all known gang members and known to police, according to the Victoria Police statement. 6 of the 7 were allegedly out on bail at the time. Ah, so everything that's been happening in Canada has been pretty well mirrored in Australia and New Zealand. The COVIDity stupidity, they abuse their citizens in the same way. And you look at immigration, they're doing the same thing their countries there as well, replacing their population, changing the laws to make criminals less less accountable for their crimes, let's say. So you can let them loose on the public and cause more mayhem. So you can bring in more draconian legislation to further clamp down totalitarian wise and then finally take away all their freedoms. And we can see what they're doing. Most people can't. Strong Borders Act would give law enforcement access to internet subscriber information without a warrant. Yes, the other people's carney. A border security bill tabled this week by federal government would grant CSIS, police, and other law enforcement agencies the right to demand information about internet subscribers, including their locations, without a warrant from a judge. The proposed changes, part of a sprawling piece of legislation unveiled on Tuesday, were criticized by civil liberties advocates and legal experts who argued the measures would run counter to previous court rulings that would almost certainly face new challenges. This is exactly what I was saying. Right? So they spent the past 10 years destroying Canada, putting in legislation that lets crime out on the street, allowing fentanyl drug lords to come in here and set up shop, human trafficking, drug running, money laundering. Canada's a big crime environment now. And what do? No, instead of reversing all the policies that created the situation since 2015, no, let's just bring in this nice little totalitarian bill so we can further clamp down on the remaining of society that we're quickly replacing through mass immigration. Even though we're saying we're going to control mass immigration, we're still going to allow more people than we can handle so we can continue to destroy the country. The war on city dwellers. Climate change, grift of the century, part 3. Despite Donald Trump's withdrawal from the Paris Agreement on climate change, the World Economic Forum and UN executives and bureaucrats doubled down this year at the poorly attended WEF gathering in Davos. Could world leaders possibly be starting to catch on? Proclaimed and nothing can stop the radical transformation of the world in the name of climate change. We are already collaborating on a scale where no one can stop, not one country, no one leader can making a decision because it's just the right thing to do globally, announced D'Amelio Ogunbiyi, CEO of a special representative of the UN Secretary General for Sustainable Energy for All. Yeah, that's what they want to believe. No one could stop. We've done too much progress. We need to steal more of your money for the green scam. Well, it looks like the states are putting a clamp on it, and without the states, without that big economy supporting your green scam, how is it going to work? And besides, we're seeing the green scam imploding on itself right now in Europe. as they will continually to run out of power, as each of their little green scam items fail one after another. Animal Pride. CBC releases Animal Pride documentary and incredible queer raccoons, mushrooms. Oh my God. Okay, I have to look at this. I have to see what this is. Canada's national broadcaster released a documentary attempting to prove that nature is queer. Oh, again, so it's the assault on heteronormativity, right? They the biological imperative that allows life to exist on this planet is heteronormative, where opposite sex get together and create new life. Happens across all the species, happens across plants, but apparently that's abnormal, according to the CBC. The CBC released a nearly 1 hour episode, The Nature of Things, titled Animal Pride. God. Highlighting several animals and plants that they claim exhibit queer behavior, seeking to opposite the belief that homosexuality is unnatural. Okay, so we never said it was unnatural. We're just saying that it's not normal. It's not heteronormative because it's not normal. You can't propagate your species through homosexuality. We're not saying it's bad. It's going to occur in nature regardless. Just stop shoving it in our faces. Let's go back to BCF. U.S. tells wavering NATO time has come to lift defense spending. Yes, well, unfortunately for Canada, we can spend all we want, but we just don't have the recruits. We don't have the boots on the ground because no one wants to work for your military. Solitary contender needed to topple Chow next year's electoral race. Yes, because in Canada, people aren't smart enough to look into the policies that affect them. They can only look towards their next leader to bring them out of their doldrums instead of, you know, trying to do things themselves and get themselves improve themselves, get themselves out of issues. No, they always look for a savior because they have been conditioned into it through massive amounts of socialism throughout their entire life. That's why they need to find a new champion for them to vote for. Now, there were plenty of people who ran for the election last year that would have been far better than whatever that is. Putin tells Trump he'll seek revenge for Ukraine drone strikes. Well, duh. You don't lose a bunch of bombers and then just decide not to do anything about it. President Putin very strongly set out his intention to retaliate against Ukraine for its devastating attack on Russian airfields. President Trump said after they held a 75-minute phone call. Putin's determination to respond Sunday's drone assault signals an escalation of the war, which Trump vowed to end on his first day. Trump admitted that it was not a conversation that will lead to immediate peace. The pair had last spoken on May 19th. The discussion, Trump said, went very well and would lead to immediate face-to-face Russia-Ukraine talks since the fighting has only intensified. Here's the reality. The banks have pretty well intimated that there will be a world war. And that's what they do every 100 years. They need a world war. And as long as people are beholden to the banks, the politicians are gonna try to push for it. No amount of peace talks will stop these psychopaths from trying to push the planet into another world war. Canada's costly NATO reminder. Membership doesn't come cheap. Membership has its privileges, as the old American Express advertisement promised, but it also has steep costs. Canada faced potential multi-billion-dollar reminder of this as defense ministers gathered Thursday at NATO headquarters in Brussels. They had come to the stage for annual leaders summit in The Hague later this month, where talk and defense spending will dominate the agenda. Well, the liberals will like that because that's what they love to do. They just love to spend money. They just love to throw money at things. They think that solves everything. Problem, we'll just throw more money at it. Oh, not enough recruits. Let us throw more money at it. Not enough recruits. Oh, well, maybe we'll just stop betting them for psychiatric issues, and we'll deal with them after they join. Oh, maybe we'll just not do a test to see if they're actually physically capable of doing the job. We'll just do that after they join. Because, maybe at that point we could just throw more money at them. Yeah, yeah, it's not working. It's not working. You're not building a military that way. You're not retaining them. But, that's our life right now under the totalitarian, dystopian hellscape that the Liberal Party of Canada is trying to manipulate Canada into. They've been doing a good job for the past 10 years, and they will continue to manage the decline as we move forward. Thank you all for sticking to the end if you have. Um, I appreciate all of you. If you'd like to come on over to Rumble, please leave us a comments there. Like I said before, you can use some extra followers so we can start the creator program. You guys have a great weekend and be on the lookout for the next cooking video that will be coming along with the daily updates on the garden growth.